Ho ho ho! Shalom and Jambo! Welcome to today's special edition episode of Zachipedia. I'm Professor Zach, and today I'm going to be discussing the 3 most common winter holidays. Now, I know there are a lot more winter holidays, such as the rise of Muhammad for Muslims, or the Paka for Sikhists, or the Dalai Lama Day for Buddhists, but I'm just going to tell you the most commonly celebrated and the most common winter holidays. So in this episode, or special edition episode, I hope you learn all about them, and about 3 main holidays that I'm going to discuss, and behind their scenes and why we celebrate them the way we do. 3 holidays of Christmas, Hanukkah, and last of all, Kwanzaa. Well, let's start with the most commonly celebrated holiday, Christmas. It is a Christian holiday that basically has around just about 3 billion celebrators. Almost half the population of the world celebrates Christmas. Now, Christmas is basically to celebrate the birth of Christ. Now, it is actually unknown the exact date of birth of Jesus Christ, but most theologists agree on December the 25th. Now, why do we have the whole thing with giving presents and Santa Claus and the tree and all? Well, there are lots of factors, but they believe that according to the Bible, Jesus was a very unique child when he was born. He was an infant, and yet had a very special connection with the animals in the manger he was born in. Like, he basically could bring the animals to them. He could ride them without, even the endangered one, even the hazardous ones, without being harmed. They would bow and kneel to his every will. And yet, he would still be fine and friendly. So, of course, this brought lots of attention. And one day, the 3 kings, who were elegantly dressed, who also wore beards, and were not very plump, they were very rich and had lots of food. And they were also dressed elegantly in the colors of red, green, and purple. And they came to the manger and presented Jesus Christ with gifts. This is basically sort of how Santa Claus came in. But there are many other factors that also brought in Santa Claus. For in the Netherlands, on December 6th, to celebrate their version of Christ's birth, they would have a person named Saint Nicholas, or a saint who would give presents to people who fully reenacted the full ways of Christ, which were peace and niceness, or caring for others. And also, in Hungary and Romania, they had where a person named Kris Kringle would go to people's homes and give presents to people who celebrated Christianity on Jesus' birth in order to restore the proper way of Jesus. And I almost thought of Kringle as their messenger from heaven to bring back God's will and celebrate his religion. The next holiday is Hanukkah. Now, Hanukkah is a more easier story, for it is basically completely based off of one real historical event, and that was the invasion of Israel. The kingdom of Jerusalem, or Israel, was back then a Mediate empire that was entirely ruled by Jews. Now, what happened is that a Syrian king, for at the time Syria was part of the Greek monarchy, named Akola, went and he successfully invaded the kingdom of Jerusalem. And since he was Christian, he banned all celebrating of Judaism and Jewish ways. However, there were still some people who would do things like use the dreidel to play for gelt, and would sing songs, and would basically do their traditions freely that we still do to this day, or that Jews do to this day. Now, eventually, rabbis who were killed and forced to convert were not very happy, and a group of their sons, who were called the Maccabees, fought against the Syro-Greeks and won, and the kingdom of Israel, or Jerusalem, became free at last. Now that most of their temples were destroyed, so for the night of their sacred gathering of the rabbis, they had only enough oil for one night, and they wouldn't be able to get more oil to keep the light burning for 8 days. However, shockingly, the oil did burn for 8 days, just enough time for them to bring in more oil and continue their holidays and lighting of the temple, or a festival called Festival of Lights. Now, to celebrate this, for 8 days, starting from December the 16th and going on to December the 20, no, I didn't do my math right there, December the 18th to December the 25th, they would have the lighting of a menorah, and still do today, light a menorah, which is 8 candles, for menorah means hand of 8 in Hebrew, and would light them and light every day 1 candle to resemble the true ways of Hanukkah. And now they do things like this, and eat feasts and be kosher and do multiple things to celebrate this event. Now, the next one is Kwanzaa. But the odd thing about Kwanzaa compared to Christmas and Hanukkah is that it is a bit diverse, for it's not a holiday. It's not made after a winter holiday or a historical or biblical event. Kwanzaa was created in 1965 by a historian and African-American storyteller named Dr. Maulana Karenga, who basically wanted to create a holiday that resembled African American history and to celebrate the real ways of African Americans from Africa or from any part of the world. And the name Kwanzaa came from a Swahili name for the great festivity or upbringing. Now, it is the only real African American designated holiday besides Swahili or any other basically smaller civilizations that have their own religions throughout Africa and other foreign countries. It is mainly celebrated by doing dances, having different talks and discussions, and telling stories of African American history, reading tales of escaped slaves, the stories of activists and their segregational protests, and more liberation of African Americans. Well, I hope this video taught you all the holidays of the most common 3 that I just discussed. And I think that it will truly show you the ways, just like Karenga could show you his ways with his wooden cane. Well, I guess shalom, bakal, and cheerio or bye. So, I must say, I'm out. Have a happy Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa.